Can a dude in Utah who grew up in Alabama make authentic Spanish paella using a French carbon steel skillet? I don't know, but today we are going to find out as we do a big in-depth review of this Debouille Mineral B carbon steel paella pan. Let's get started. Hi guys, and welcome to Uncle Scott's Kitchen. Today we are talking about paella and paella pans, specifically this Debouille Mineral B paella pan. Got this thing in about 2 months ago, as always. Paid for it with my own money, so my opinions are my own. We're going to review it today. Now, I have never made paella before, and I gotta say, starting out, I'm a little bit intimidated. And after making it a few times, it turns out it's not all that hard and absolutely delicious. So we're gonna make some paella in the paella pan. And we're also gonna run through some other ways to use this pan. We're gonna give it a full in-depth review. So let's get started with that. It's a Debouille Mineral B. Big fans of Debouille around here. I've had great luck with the Mineral Bs. This is the paella pan version. 12.6 incher, the big one. Very heavy, very thick. It's 3 millimeters thick and weighs in at almost 6 pounds for this guy. Holy cow. Very thick, heavy pan. Now it's carbon steel. It arrives shiny and silvery. Carbon steel, kind of sort of like cast iron, needs to be seasoned. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on the seasoning in this video because we've done it a million times in other videos. I did a separate standalone video for seasoning this paella pan. I'll put a link somewhere on the screen or below this video if you want more depth there. Check that video out. I actually seasoned it out on the barbecue grill. In a nutshell, why season the pan on a barbecue grill? Because when we season a pan, we bring oil up to its smoke point, it smokes, it can stink up the house. And if you do it out on the barbecue grill, you keep all those odors and smoke outside. And that keeps the wife happy, or relatively anyway. Now, after that seasoning on the barbecue grill, I did do the fried egg test. And here I want to give a little carbon steel 101 lesson. I tried a fried egg in that pan. Right after I seasoned it on the barbecue grill, the pan was still screaming hot. It was too hot. My first egg stuck like a duck. Brought the pan inside. Tried another egg. I let the pan cool down and, oh, second egg stuck like a duck. Now, is there anything wrong with the pan? Is there anything wrong with the seasoning? No. Here's the third egg. Now, all these eggs came from the same carton of eggs, same stick of butter, same pan, same seasoning. And here I just had it on the correct burner and at the correct temperature, and the third egg slides. And I note I nailed the flip in a pan with no handle. But the moral of the story here is that if you have a new carbon steel skillet, you season it correctly and something sticks, probably 9 times out of 10, the reason is you're cooking at the wrong temperature. Just try it a few times and you will find out where that pan likes to live on your stovetop, which burner to use, what heat to use, and then things will be remarkably non-stick. So cook more and season less. Now this pan is the Mineral B paella pan. It is the exact same pan, this part of it, the actual pan itself, is the Mineral B Pro, which is my favorite and most recommended carbon steel skillet. So the pan itself is the same as the Mineral B Pro. You can cook the exact same things in either pan and they're going to turn out the same, at least they should. So what makes it a paella pan? Just the fact that it has 2 loop handles rather than 1 loop handle and a bigger main handle. Now, I talked to Debouille about this pan a couple of months ago, and there was at least some discussion, I don't know if they'll do this or not, but they were at least thinking about renaming this pan. Because the word paella, people see paella pan, they think, well, you can only make paella in it. That is not true. It's really a Mineral B carbon steel frying pan with loop handles. That makes it a paella pan. So as far as cooking tests for this review, I'm not going to repeat everything we did for the Mineral B Pro because it's the same pan, just with different handles. I did do some checking on it, and I've been using it for things like making these potatoes, Get the pan to the right temperature, no sticking. Making some okra. Again, no sticking if you cook at the right temperature. I've also been using this pan in the oven. In the last 2 weeks, I've used it 3 times just for roasting weeknight veggies. Here I've got some carrots, some chopped up Yukon Golds, some onion, some salt, pepper, olive oil, and a little herb de Provence, a little la-ti-da. Into the pan and into a 425-degree oven for an hour or so, and absolutely delicious. So you can use the pan on the stovetop, you can use it in your oven, but I want to go outside and use this thing on the grill a little bit more since it is summertime. And I want to show one way we can use this pan on a barbecue grill before we get to the paella. Here I have some nice salmon fillets, and I'm going to use the Mineral B paella pan to cook that fish outside on my gas grill. Now, why do that? First reason is to cook fish outside, you get the fish odors out of your house. Now you can cook fish directly on the grill. I had done that once before and almost ruined a barbecue grill because all the drippings and sauce and whatever from the fish kind of dripped down into my grill, and that thing stunk for weeks. I almost threw that grill away, it was so bad. So if you use something like a paella pan to cook the fish outside, you get the fish odors outside, and you also prevent all that mess from getting down in your grill. So here I've got the pan heating up on the barbecue grill. Got some olive oil in the pan. I've got some olive oil, salt, and pepper on the fish. Pretty good looking pieces of fish. And I've got some dill and some lemon for later. But I start that fish out flesh side down for a minute or so to get just a little color and texture on the top of the fish. Flip that over skin side down and let it cook until it's done the way I like it. Just use a meat thermometer. And it turned out fantastically. All right, my wife is out of town, and that's her loss because just like a hungry bear in one of those Alaska videos, I tore through both pieces of the salmon. It's delicious. So with that Thermopin 1, I checked the internal temperature of the salmon and pulled these off when it got up to about 140 in the thickest part of the salmon. That gets the salmon done enough for me. I know some people like it a lot more raw, I guess you would say, or medium rare. I like mine a little bit more well done, but it didn't get rubbery though, so it stayed moist and flaky and did not get rubbery and tough. Delicious. I really like the cracked pepper on there with the olive oil. And even my little son ate some. Did you eat some salmon?
Yes.
Did you like it?
Yeah, I just cooking it, so I'm just getting a bit of lemon.
Oh, he's working on the lemon right now, so that's my miniature sous chef. But I think the paella pan did a fine job on the grill with salmon. Okay, the preliminaries are over with. This is a paella pan. Let's make some paella. Now, I grew up in Alabama, kind of out in the sticks, and I was a grown man before I ever even heard the word paella, had no idea it existed. I think the first time I ever heard the word was watching Seinfeld, and the Costanzas made all that paella. First time I ever heard the word. And I was under the mistaken impression that it was some sort of seafood fish stew. Completely wrong about that, and being wrong, I probably missed out on a good 20 years of eating delicious paella, although I made up for it in other areas. But if you're new to paella like I was a couple of months ago, let's go through some kind of paella 101 and see if we can learn a little bit about it and see how to cook some. Now, the word paella in Spanish just means pan. So we're making pan. It's referred to as the national dish of Spain. I don't know if that's official or just kind of the way it's worked out. And it is not a stew, it is a rice dish. And you can make it with seafood, but thankfully I've learned that there are a variety of paella recipes. There's not just one recipe for paella. In the Valencia region of Spain, they often make it with chicken. And that's what we're going to focus on today. I don't care too much for seafood. I like the salmon, I like sardines, the occasional tuna sandwich. But when it comes to clams, mussels, shellfish, oysters, all that kind of stuff, I don't really care for that. So thankfully, there are recipes for paella that don't include seafood. Now this one we're going to do from the Valencia region also usually includes, in addition to the chicken, rabbit and snails. Turns out, luckily, my rabbit and snail guy is on summer vacation. So instead of the rabbit and snails, I'm going to substitute a little bit of smoked sausage and use some chicken. So while there are a variety of recipes with paella, there are some commonalities that seem to spread through most every recipe. The first is the rice. It's a rice dish. Traditionally, they use Spanish bomba rice. Now, my local supermarket does not carry Spanish bomba rice. But thankfully, with the internet, with Amazon Prime, with a few clicks, I had some Spanish bomba rice, some authentic real deal stuff delivered to my doorstep overnight. So you gotta like that. Now this rice is often typically flavored with saffron. It starts out as white rice, and when you get some broth and the saffron in there, it takes on a little bit of a yellowish color. And I get the feeling that back in the day, this was kind of a peasant food dish. And with the state of the economy around here these days, probably not a bad idea to dust off our peasant food recipes. But they would have the rice as the base, and then I think they would just kind of add whatever else they had. If they had chicken, they'd add chicken. If they had fish, they'd add fish. If they had sausage, if they had to eat snails, they would throw in some snails. Yuck, glad I don't have to eat snails. If you want to go real deal, you cook it outside over an open flame. We're actually going to cook some out over charcoal with some wood chips on the barbecue grill. Gives it a little bit of a smoky flavor, but you can definitely do it inside on your stovetop or even in your oven. And then there's the socarrat. And in my opinion, this is the most difficult part of getting kind of a good paella. Socarrat is kind of a crusty, slightly caramelized, slightly chewy layer of rice on the bottom of the pan. We're going to simmer the rice. It's going to absorb its liquid. After it's all absorbed and the rice is cooked, you allow the paella to keep on cooking. There's enough oil left in there. The rice will start sizzling and frying a little bit on the bottom. And the trick here is to let it cook enough to where it caramelizes and browns just a little and gets a little bit of texture and chew on that bottom layer of rice without burning it. And for me, that was the most difficult thing about learning to do paella. Okay, so I think that's enough paella information to get us in trouble and get started. Let's jump right in. Now this paella pan, this mineral B pan, as frying pans go, this is big. This is a huge frying pan. But as paella pans go, I don't think I would go any smaller than this. Now over in Spain, and when they do big kind of event show paellas, they can have paella pans that are feet or yards wide, just absolutely huge. Within the realm of sanity though, these paella pans for the home cook come in sizes like this one. You can also go bigger, 14, 18, 22 inch pans. Now if you get a bigger paella pan for a home cook, you just gotta make sure you have a burner or a bigger grill or somewhere to use that pan properly. This 12.5 inch, the bottom here fits nicely on, of course on a gas burner, but also on my electric flat top. It matches up really well with the largest burner I have on that electric flat top. If you get much bigger than this though, it will not sit on those burners correctly and you're gonna get uneven cooking. So if you decide to get a paella pan for home use, just make sure you have the burner or the grill or some place to use it properly. Okay, so I've been trying to use this one recipe and I'm using little variations on it, but I've made it here on the gas stovetop, down in the basement on an electric flat top stove, and then out on the barbecue grill. Okay, so here are my ingredients. I've got some boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I got some smoked sausage. I've got peppers, I've got onions, I've got garlic, salt and pepper, obviously. I've got some fresh rosemary. I really like fresh rosemary with chicken. I got some chicken stock. I got a little pack of gold nuggets, saffron, and of course the bomba rice. So on these stovetops, I made a couple of mistakes. I'm gonna go through what I did wrong there. But let's put everything together and jump out to the barbecue grill where I'm going to do my best to do an authentic Spanish paella. Now here I am using a Weber charcoal grill, and what I'm doing is getting my charcoal started, and once that's going, I want to put the charcoal only on half of the barbecue grill so I can have some direct heat and also some indirect heat. Now why do that? Because we're going to need to cook things at different temperatures. We're going to need to brown meat with some higher direct heat, but then once we start simmering the rice, we're going to want to use a little bit more indirect heat, not quite as big a flame under there. So once I have the charcoal arranged the way I like it, I get the pan on there, get it heating up, get some olive oil in there. In goes the chicken and sausage, going to get a little browning here. Note that the chicken does not have to be cooked thoroughly all the way through here. I just want a little bit of browning and develop a little bit of texture and flavor on the outside. This is going to be simmered along with the rice for probably 15 to 20 minutes here in a few minutes. So it will finish cooking as it simmers. Don't want to cook it too long here and make it too tough. So once that is cooked up a little, I remove it from the pan and in go my aromatics. So I'm using some onion here and some red pepper. And I don't want to brown these. I just want to cook them a little bit and soften them up just a little bit. So our chicken and our sausage are ready. The aromatics are ready. I've had the stock and some saffron heating up separately. So I have my rice liquid ready. And we have reached a fork in the road point with this bomba rice. Now there are two different ways to do this. The first way is to go ahead and add the rice now, which I did on both versions. I cooked on the stovetop, and that's kind of a method you might use for a little bit of overlap there with making risotto. Now you don't stir the bomba rice like you do a risotto, but you can kind of get it coated in the oil and let it toast up and cook for just a minute or so before adding the liquid. Or what I did here on the barbecue grill is I went ahead and added the liquid first, then distributed the rice evenly around the pan. But from what I've learned, there is not a consensus on this. Various recipes, they do it either way. I had better results adding the liquid first and then the rice. And of course I add back the sausage and the chicken. Now when I cook this on the stovetop, I also added fresh green beans, and those green beans will cook as they simmer in that liquid. Out here on the grill, I'm going to use some green peas, but I'm going to wait to add those because they are pre-cooked. And then I added some fresh rosemary. I really like fresh rosemary with chicken. Now up to this point, we have been using pretty high heat. We were browning meat. I had the paella pan directly over the coals. Now that we're going to simmer the rice, we got the liquid in there. We want the rice to cook gently and nicely. We're going to move it off the direct heat over to the side of the grill that doesn't have any charcoal. We want a slower simmer heat. Also, in Spain, the traditional way to cook this is over an open flame. They like a little bit of smoky flavor. So what I am doing here is just adding some wood chips to the side of the grill that has the charcoal, and then I'm shutting the lid, and that will get some smoke going in there, add a little bit of smoky flavor to my paella. Now, the side of the pan that is closest to the charcoal is still going to get a little bit hotter. So what you have to do is just rotate the pan a little bit every few minutes or so. And now you just need to watch this. Every couple minutes you need to open the lid and rotate the pan a little bit so it's not getting too hot on one side or boiling too high on one side. And wait for your rice to cook correctly. After 15 minutes or so, I got a fork and started trying a couple of grains of rice, made sure my rice was cooked correctly. And once the rice is cooked correctly, we have to focus on the socarrat. There is no socarrat at the moment. And if the rice has absorbed all the liquid, there is still oil in the pan. You slide the pan back over direct heat, and you will hear that oil start to sizzle. You hear it start crackling a little bit, and that is that bottom layer of rice right by the pan starting to fry just a little bit. The trick here is to get it to fry just a little bit, to kind of caramelize, to brown up just a little bit, develop some texture and chew, but not go too far so that it's stuck like a duck and burnt. And that's the trick here. On both of my stovetop versions, I went a little bit too long, a little bit too high of a heat, and I had some sticking. Now the paella was still delicious. Just a hypothetical question here. If your wife is out of town and you make a big pan of paella and eat the entire thing, That's just one serving, right? I think so. Anyway, ate all of it. The only problem was with the sauerkraut. I had a lot of sticking and a little bit of burning on there. I let it go too far, too long, at too high of a flame. Out here on the barbecue grill, I kind of learned a trick. You can't really tell from the video, but in the background, my wife and son are there, and they're saying things like, "Is it ready yet? When are we gonna eat? I'm hungry." So what I did was just go ahead and dip them some of the paella. Now, if you're presenting this to people, you don't want to do this, but if you're learning paella, no big deal. I scooped some out for them, and it was a great way to test that sauerkraut. The rice was done perfectly. There was not much browning when I got theirs out. I let it go a little bit longer, and look at this, delicious sauerkraut. And most importantly, delicious. My wife, son, and I, we ate the entire pan. So paella, slightly challenging. There's a little bit of a learning curve, but once you do it a couple of times, not that difficult. It's a little bit challenging in the fact that there's a lot going on in the pan. Different ingredients coming and going, different temperature changes, browning, simmering, all in the same pan, developing that sauerkraut. So kind of fun and challenging to try to make. And if you do it a couple of times, really not that difficult once you get the hang of it. It's a very presentable dish with the red and the green, the yellow from the saffron infusing the rice with the brown meat. A very presentable dish, and I understand why you might want to get a dedicated paella pan to present this, to put it on a table for guests. I get it. Paella is almost an event in addition to being a meal. So what do I think about this Debouillet carbon steel paella pan? This is a high quality Debouillet Mineral B carbon steel skillet. It cooked delicious food, stovetop, just for normal frying, roasting in the oven, and definitely cooking the fish and the paella, even out on the barbecue grill. Very high quality pan, good looking pan. I like it a lot, and it gets a thumbs up. Now, if you want to get one of these for yourself, make sure you check out the shopping links below. Leave your questions, comments, and feedback below the video. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again next time on Uncle Scott's Kitchen.